Hello, students in Ethiopia and outside of Ethiopia, those who are attending written class. Here is my presentation on Unit 1, that is 1.2. Because it is very vast, okay, the portion to be covered here, I tried to condensely present you in short, slide by slide. And don't miss subscribing me, sharing this video to others. Okay, 1.2, features of nationalism and formation of nation states. There were, several major movements before the 9th century contributed to rising nationalism. Especially, you see here, the Renaissance, it was an intellectual movement that began in Italy in the middle of the 14th century. This encouraged the use of national language and literature, and it fostered national identity, right? After the Renaissance, in the 16th century, starting from 1517, Martin Luther began, preaching about the new sect of Christianity called Protestantism. Okay, since then, meaning that the Protestant Reformation shattered religious unity. Rather, it weakened the papal authority, meaning that the Roman Catholic papal authority was weakened because of a new sect. Protestantism emanated or came out of the womb of Catholicism. The other thing, trade and colonial expansion brought walls and strengthened emerging nation states. Yeah, it's clear. Okay, the trade, especially the long distance trade, along the coastal lines or trading posts, the Europeans, especially Portugal, created in Africa along the coast, and the colonial expansion. This both brought sort of huge amount of walls to nation states and strengthened them or helped them to have a nation state. Nationalism, what do you mean by the word nationalism? It comes from, derived from nation, which is country. Nationalism is belonging, it's a feeling first of all, right? It's a feeling of belongingness, loyalty, love, that causes people to think of themselves as a nation. It is a sense of belonging or feeling proud of one's own country. It comes with a feeling that makes people support their national government in every activity that she or he chooses to engage in. Very clearly put here what nationalism is: a kind of belongingness, expression of loyalty, love to somebody's country and people. After Napoleon's defeat, that was in 1815, the early 9th century was marked by reactionary politics, anarchism, or reactionary political situations. Chaotic problems were created there. There were some controversies between the liberalists, who needed, or we can say nationalists, who needed kind of independence, freedom, and there were powerful conservatism, especially of Britain, Russia, Prussia, Austria. These four were the ones who combined force to defeat Napoleon, and they gave him a blow actually at the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. And it became just a time for revolution. Once they met, actually, here in 1815, once Napoleon lost the war, these four met in Vienna, the capital of Austria, and they signed a Treaty of Vienna, or Congress of Vienna, we call it. So these states had one defined aim. Their aim was to restore monarchies and prevent revolutionary changes. Okay, there was a fear, a revolution coming from France to these four countries that had been under the rule of monarchs, strong monarchs. Therefore, their aim was restoring monarchies, monarchies that lost power because of Napoleon's domination of Europe. These four wanted to restore monarchies because in France there was a revolution, and that revolution toppled down the emperor, Louis XVI, and finally Louis the 18th, So there was a strong fear among those four countries' leaders, They wanted to bring about their monarchies restored and preventing their nations from revolutionary turmoil or change. Conservatives wanted to preserve traditional systems and suppress liberal or national, the way we have discussed. They didn't want any revolution to come to their borders, to their land, so they wanted to suppress liberal, meaning moderate, progressive movements, national movements. On one hand, liberalism is a modernity, expression of modernity. Conservatism or traditionalism goes through backward thinking. So these statements, what they tell us is the difference between conservative sentiment and liberal sentiment. Revolutionaries promoted nationalism, just strengthened a feeling of nationalism, belongingness, people to stand for their national states, and rejected conservatism. Revolutionaries did not like to see conservatism or traditionalism. Rather, they were in support of nationalism. These 5 factors contributing to a nationalist sentiment. One person to love his country, to stand for the freedom of his nation or her nation. What were the contributory factors? Economic concern. This was a feeling of just trying to have a strong trade activity, industry, and how to bring or regenerate wealth for the build-up of a nation. Historical, people within that, this means that people within that nation, within that state, shared common past history, common culture, common heroic sentiment. Geographically, they also, people of the same nation, shared common territory, common borders, and they also shared the same or common language, customs, religion. Politically, they begin to have people to have a desire for self-rule, freedom, which means sovereignty, independent hegemony within that territory. Okay, let me take you to one unification of Italy. Unification by itself shows us that there were some tiny, smaller, divided states. And this is true of Italy plus Germany. Firstly, let's see the situation in the divided Italy. Italy previously was divided or disunited, and its parts were taken by the neighboring Austrian monarchy as well as the French. So here it says the first was the Austrian occupation of Lombardy and Venetia. Let me show you here. We have, I have already, in short, presented to you those divided states around here. Okay, here are the divided states. Here are the 5 divided states of Italy, and on map here we can identify them. Here is Lombardy, Venetia, the northern part of Italy. The other is Parma, Modena. Okay, as well, they're located in the northern part of Italy. So Lombardy and Venetia as one, being controlled by Austria. Here is Austria. Parma, Tuscany, and Modena were ruled actually by their local chiefs, local rulers, but they were influenced by Austrian emperor. The other part is here we have the Kingdom of Sardinia, okay, including, this is a center of Sardinia. This is an island on the Mediterranean Sea. Piedmont and Sardinia as one, under one independent sovereign monarchy and ruled by its own monarch, having its own constitution. The other part is divided region is the papal states under the Pope, the Roman Catholic Pope, centering in Rome. The other is in the south of Italy. We have here the kingdom of the two Sicilies. Okay, as you all, this part is taken as kingdom. It was under King Francis II, and we'll see how actually there were different approaches. Especially the three people here. Here we have okay. Firstly, let me here is Piedmont, Sardinia, as I have discussed to you, autonomous, free, nucleus state, meaning nucleus, meaning that state had a sort of strong military power, strong military, economically potential, okay, rich compared to the other parts of the states, having its own sovereign states or autonomous states, having its own constitution. In this regard, Piedmont, Sardinia, we consider them as one state. It was autonomous. Lombardy, Venetia under Austria, Parma, Modena, the Tuscany were restored to local prince. It says papal states under the papacy. The kingdom of consisted of Naples and Sicily was restored under the local rulers, but ruled by Emperor or King Francis II. Now, you see, we have here three individuals, icons, political figures, or we can call them Italian nationalists. One was Mazzini, the other was Camillo, Giuseppe Garibaldi. Giuseppe Mazzini, Cavour, Giuseppe Garibaldi. And this one, Mazzini, was known in or had a belief in democracy. A democratic republican government should be formed as of his sentiment. What he wanted was, in Italy, there must not be a constitutional rule, a monarchical rule, rather a republic, through voting of the people. One being elected should be, or coming to be, a president or a prime minister. So he founded, to bring about this democratic republican government, he founded what was called Young Italy movement, a secret society promoting nationalism and unity itself, right? Inspired many Italians, actually, especially the youth, but most of his revolts were crushed, destroyed. No more democratic revolution or popular revolution was about to have a success. This was around the year 1848. Then, Cavour, there were, strong nationalist leaders, like in Ethiopia, Emperor Theodorus, we can mention, in Prussia or Germany, Otto von Bismarck, and in Italy, Cavour. He was a skillful diplomat. He was appointed by the Emperor Emmanuel to be the Prime Minister of Piedmont, Sardinia, a nuclear state, as you remember. You could remember it. He was a skillful diplomat, pragmatic or reason-based, now with modern liberal thinking, a politician, a realist, strengthened the Piedmontese economy and army, right? Formed an alliance with France. What he did was he made Napoleon III of France to be the ally of Piedmont, Sardinia, to stand on his side in any fight against the enemy, the foreign enemy, Austria. So Napoleon actually, under some preconditions, he became the ally of Cavour, the ally of Piedmont, Sardinia, successfully, as a result of the war, at the Battle of Magenta and Solferino in 1859, Cavour took Lombardy, while Venetia remained in the hands of the Austrians. So Cavour had to wait for another moment kind of time to totally defeat the Austrians and retake Venetia. Garibaldi, a passionate soldier and a nationalist, leader of the Red Shirts, where he brought thousands of Italians. He brought from northern part of Italy to the south, organized them, having a uniform of shirts colored red, and that was his army, his fighting army. And as a result, he conquered, he gave a blow to the army of the king called Francis II, and he took control of Sicily, southern Italy, that means. But in the end, he handed over the kingdom of the two Sicilies to Cavour, and Garibaldi quit politics and went back to his fishing island. Once more, you have to just see here parts of okay, this became independent. Venetia became free of Austria. I mean, Lombardy became free of Austrian domination. Here it was a nuclear state. Therefore, these were joined. And by the year 1861, the Kingdom of Italy under King Emmanuel, was proclaimed. This was the initial formation of Italy. Victor Emmanuel II, King of Piedmont, Sardinia, became King of United Italy in 1861, as I said, except Rome and Venetia. All others came to be unified, symbolized the monarchical unity of Italy. He symbolized, he was the actual monarch of the Italy. Final unification steps. You know, what Cavour did was, in order to get Venetia from the Austrians, okay, Cavour allied with Otto von Bismarck, with Prussia. Italy allied with Prussia. Here there was Cavour, Prussia, there was Bismarck. The two allied together, combined their force, and confronted the force of Austria, their common enemy. Austria was a common enemy to Prussia, and Austria was at the same time an enemy to Italy, to Cavour. Therefore, we call it the Austro-Prussian War, or the Battle of Sadowa, in which the Italians took, after this, as a result of this war, Italians took Venetia from Austria, and we'll discuss how the Germans, the Prussians, a little bit halfway, they moved to the process of German formation. We'll see how Bismarck did something here, okay, in uniting the 22 North German states. We'll see that. Rome became the capital, and after just the Franco, you have to know. Here is the Battle of Sadowa. Don't be confused, guys. The Battle of Sadowa. Here, the Battle of Sedan. Austria lost this war. France lost this war. Austria was defeated here. France was defeated here. We call it the Franco-Prussian War. You know, Austria became a loser. She lost both battles. We'll see in the process of German unification. Although Italy was politically united, many problems continued. This include regional division, okay, lack of stability, as few the Italians were experienced in self-government, okay, even the thinking, the modern thinking in the south, in the north, I mean, the northerners were liberalists with modern thinking, the southerners not that much, conservative and economically backward. That created a regional division. The tension between industrialized north and agraria, what I explained before. Okay, we have concluded. It's better to come to the history of main points where I have touched to you, major points. This was a time after the completion of the unification of Italy. Mafia was created, the formation of a secret society known as a mafia, kind of state within a state within a state. This shows that mafia was very dominant, which the central government was powerless to control. Okay, the formal Italian government was unable to uh, destroy mafia, so that's why a state within state is called. Okay, there were some developments after unification. A standard form of the Italian, okay, one language got its shape or strength. Growth of industrialization, especially in Italy. Northern Italy became industrialized, urbanized, but in the south, a backward agrarian economy. Expansion of modern education, right? Creation of a strong national army, right? Let me take you to unification of Germany. Just this, in the history of Germany, before Napoleon came to power in France, even after he came to control the government of France regarding his neighboring, except some regions like Russia and Britain were remained free from Napoleon's rule, but all others were dominated by Napoleon Bonaparte, right? Therefore, he reduced the number of German states. Earlier, it was 300. He reduced that number to 100. Okay? And the Congress of Vienna reduced this number to 39. Of these 39 states, the North, industrial North, was 22, and the backward South numbered 17. Prussia was here among those countries, among those states, sorry. And Bavaria, we have here among the 17, we have Bavaria, whose capital was Munich. Okay. The major point, what's important here is Otto von Bismarck, as we have deeply understand who Cavour was, that he was a skillful diplomat. Bismarck here as well, an icon, okay, a leading figure in the process of the German unification. He was a chancellor or prime minister appointed by Wilhelm the First of Germany. I mean, that time, North Germany, sorry. He was emperor of Prussia, the nuclear state of Germany. What the Germans did was, especially Prussians, because you have to know that Prussia and Austria were rival powers in the affairs of Germany. The German states Prussia didn't want to see Austria in the affairs. They didn't like to see Austrian influence, domination in the internal affairs of German states. Austria, on the contrary, wanted to strengthen its control, its dominance over all the 22 German states, the northern German states. Therefore, here we'll see how Bismarck tackled all these problems and brought one German state. The first thing what they did was the Zollverein, creating the Zollverein. It was a customs union, an economic union, proposed and practiced by the North Germans. It was not the concern of actually Southern Germans. Let me show you here. Okay. Here is Prussia, you see? Sorry. Here is Prussia. This is the southern part. Okay. Here we have Schleswig-Holstein in the hands of Denmark. Now, here is Austria dominating the northern part of Germany. Therefore, the 22 were in the north, the 17 under the French influence. Even there was a division. So our focus is related to the Zollverein. This was an economic customs union focusing only on the north, how to strengthen the economic potential, okay, to make North German state very strong economically, okay. The Germans in the north, ignoring the southern region, okay, formed the Zollverein. With the aim of two. One, just to avoid any checkpoint and to let all German merchants to freely move, buy and sell commodities freely. The other was to avoid, to just remove tariffs, and to avoid checkpoints. We did say that. The second aim of the Zollverein was to avoid Austria, to remove Austria from involvement in the Zollverein, okay, excluding Austria. This was planned by Prussia to exclude Austria. Various forces that opposed to the unification of Germany before 1870 were, okay, Austria was one. Foreign powers that opposed to German unification were Austria, Russia, and France. They didn't want a united Germany to see. Small German states who feared Prussian domination, all other tiny states ruled by princes, did not like to see a Prussian domination because they didn't want to see a united Germany even. The Catholic states who feared domination by Protestants because there was a division, like in the north we have Protestants, in the south Catholics, influenced by France, and there was no agreement between Protestantism, where there were Protestants as a result of the rise of Protestant Reformation. Okay, we did say, I told you this just to condense my points. Bismarck was regarded as Iron Chancellor, a strong Prime Minister, Chancellor. Even still, Germans use this title name as equal to Prime Minister. Iron Chancellor, Iron Prime Minister, a strong Prime Minister, that means a master of real politics, uh, weighing facts and prioritizing to one basic step by step. What real politics? What it means is Bismarck's method to achieve the unification of Germany. What he did was there were three enemies. Okay, Denmark was one. Okay, prior to that, here is as well the policy used by Otto von Bismarck. He believed in this policy, blood and iron. Blood refers to sacrifice, iron, a weapon, which is war. Okay, giving our blood, we can predict, we can bring about a unified German state. This was his policy, what he believed in. Bismarck 3 words of for unification because there were three enemies. Here, Denmark was the enemy in the north of Germany, was called today Germany. The other was Austria, as I showed you on the map, and the other was France. Here is France. Another enemy, France, especially in the south. Danish War. What Bismarck did was he allied with Austria first. He allied with Austria and defeated Denmark in what was called Danish War in 1864. As a result, Bismarck or Prussia took Schleswig, while Holstein remained in the hands of the Austrians. Then, years after, in the Austro-Prussian War, in 1866, Italians also involved here on the side of Bismarck, on the side of Prussia. They defeated Italians and Germans defeated Austria as a result of what was called the Battle of Sadwa, I told you earlier. Then what became the fate of Austria was having already lost Holstein, okay, she was removed from all German affairs because its domination over the German territories came to an end, and Prussia deliberately uniting the 22 North German states, she founded Prussia, or Bismarck founded the North German Confederation under the leadership of Prussia. Okay, this was a strong step, a big step in the process of the German unification. So 22 were united, having one leadership. What left was southern 17. So they had to regain those 17. Bismarck had to fight against France, and that war was called Franco-Prussian War, or the Battle of Sedan. Here, all the 39 German states plus Italians, okay, the force of, they combined their force and defeated the army of Napoleon III of France. And Germany, what here in history, the German army, Prussian army, encroached into the mainland of France and reached Versailles. That was in the Hall of Mirrors, the Hall of Mirrors we call it, in the Palace of Versailles. The enemy to France, William the First, crowned himself as Kaiser or Emperor of United Germany in 1871. With this, the German unification came to accomplished. It was it became successful in creating one German state. But this treaty, the Treaty of Frankfurt, was an imposition on the French people in favor of the Germans. So France agreed to cede to Germany the province. She lost. France lost Alsace and Lorraine, a very rich area in resource like coal and iron. France agreed to pay huge war indemnities to Germany, reparations to Germany. She was to pay to the Germans. And that's all the results of unification. It says Germany became a powerful industrial and military nation. Actually, this gave the for the Germans to create a strong naval army, ground force, and she became even a very strong power in Europe. And in history, we'll see how Germany became the starter of the First World War. Okay, for now, that is my presentation. Don't miss subscribing and sharing my video to those who you know. It's very important for students of Ethiopia and outside of Ethiopia. Any question you have, you can present it or put it on the comment part. And next time, part 3, I will be with you on the history of the American Civil War. Thanks for now.